Hey guys, thank you for clicking on this video and supporting my channel. I mean, if I could really just take a second and just say thank you, truly thank you, to those of you who have supported my YouTube and my Twitch channel, by following and subscribing and all those things. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to those who are going to find themselves being future subscribers and followers. Thank you so much. This is going to be a series of videos, one video per 1v1 map, about the nuances of attacking and defending on all the different places on the map for infantry, mechs, artillery, air units, and where to put like bunkers and landmines and things like that, and etc. I just really hope that by the end of this series of videos, that your brain is just as big as your heart. Okay, nerds, let's get into this crap. This is oil spill for our first map.
Yes.
Yes, this is oil spill, as you can clearly see. And I would like to start off here with a great place to attack. Now, when it comes to, like, I say attack and defend, great places to attack typically end up also being great places to defend. It's just a matter of who's there first. And how you get there first, that's up to you to figure out. That's a different video. Right, but oil spill, here you go. You can see I have a robot clearly in submission here. Just not building anything. We're going to start off with infantry on this map. I'm going to talk about what I refer to as the vulnerable oil pumps.
Tell us what to do.
It's this oil pump here, right in the river, and this oil pump here in the river. These are the vulnerable oil pumps. And I guess just in general, I'm going to want to break things down. If you look at the left here on the map, right, we're facing north. But instead of just always saying like left side of the map or right side of the map, I think it's also important to note that this is the oil side of the map. We have oil. This is the iron side of the map where we have iron, iron. This is also the flag side of the map, and this is the center flag, or the contested flag. But here are the vulnerable oil pumps, and they both have the same characteristics, because even though this is not a symmetrical map, the parts of the map that you would think are symmetrical, or typically would be symmetrical, they're asymmetrical, but they reflect the same sort of principles, to how both of these oil pumps are actually very, very vulnerable to being taken and then held. And I'm gonna coin something here that I haven't heard anyone else say. I'm gonna be the first to say it. These are vulnerable because surrounding these oil pumps is what I'm gonna call one-way cover. One-way cover. And what I mean by that is all of the cover for this oil pump is really close to the oil pump. Really close to us, right? So naturally, I got my squad right here. It could be right here. It could be right here. It could even be right here. Just chilling. It could be right here. Guarding it, right? If my opponent were to come and attack me, this would be the natural pathfinding that they would take. And if my opponent were to engage this squad, he would be forced to engage it without cover. There's no cover out here for him to shoot me back from. He'd have to endure me shooting him as he approaches.
Tell us what to do.
So that's one-way cover. One-way cover is where I have cover in a location where it's difficult for my opponent to get cover. And now, of course, right, like, oh, maybe they can get over here and that challenges the spot, but there's lots of room here to wiggle around, right? They can't capture the oil pump from here. They have to be on the oil pump, and we can surround it with cover. And of course, if you control this oil pump, you also control this flag, most likely. If you don't, it's weird. And if you control this flag and this oil pump, you can naturally move up to right here. And again, we find ourselves in a position with one-way cover, where you can put squads right here and guard this other natural pathfinding for the oil side of the map, the contested flag side of the map. So very, very nice. So these oil pumps, great places to attack. It's reflected on this side as well. Same thing. All the covers by the oil pump. There's literally no cover out here to contest. They have to walk through your barrage of gunfire. Your meat grind. You just set up a meat grinder, and from all the directions that they approach, right, other than this, like this, literally right here. Some cover right here, which is crappy cover. You can't get a squad solidly to fight, like, This is great. These are great places to attack, and then once you control the oil pump and you occupy it, great place to defend. Same thing for this iron mine. Now these iron mines are actually really close to the base. They're super close. It feels really weird to try and take these, to be aggressive on them. But as you can see right here, if I were to take this iron mine from my opponent, this is my opponent here. You could pretend, I know you can do it. We've taken my opponent's iron mine. He wants to approach from his base, which is literally right here. We have the cover, and he has no cover. We can have a squad on cover, and one squad just standing behind it. And he'd have to fight without cover. So this is like really nice places to attack and defend from, because there's only one way cover to deal with it. If you're playing rifles, riflemen can actually sit right here and reach the very edge of this iron mine. They have to walk. They have to Q walk behind.
Finding some cover.
Behind the iron mine, capture it from this side of the iron mine, and of course, then you just walk out, you can shoot them, and etc. And I guess to help contrast the point of what I mean by one-way cover, this iron mine does not have any one-way cover. There's cover everywhere here, right? So it's pretty easy to get into cover to then fight your opponent who has been behind cover. Does that make sense? Have I said the word cover enough? Cover. Where there's a nice really like ebb and flow, cover to cover fighting in this area. So I would say this is two-way cover, right? Two-way cover where it's easy for both sides to achieve.
We're ready.
Cover. Okay, you got it. You got it. You're brilliant. Right, so these oil pumps, great place. Iron mines, great place. They fall in, those two things fall into the same category. Here, this is all about the ebb and the flow, flanking. If they got their squads here, of course, you can walk around this side and potentially even, attack from an off angle, right? You may not have cover right here, but if you're flanking a squad that's parked right here on the green dots, and you're attacking from right here, not having cover becomes irrelevant because you're flanking them. They don't have cover either now. Things like that. So there's a lot of room for moving around, flanking here, walking around, jumping on right here, things like that, and etc. One thing too, this middle wall can be destroyed. I'm going to talk about this contested flag now. This wall right here can be destroyed. The Grimbart can destroy it, Smaui can destroy it, Gunther can destroy it.
Fire! Tell us what to do.
Things like that, right? And I highly recommend breaking this wall right here, because this wall prevents infantry from moving back and forth. Back and forth, right? So if you're holding this, you're holding this,
Grenadiers ready. Give us a target. We are moving
and your
out.
opponent is attacking you from here to try and contest this, you have to move your squads all the way around, right? You have to move your squads from this choke point to this choke point and then in. And if you don't have vision here at all, they can get in and they can decap this pretty easily, get out for free almost. But if you blow up this wall, all of a sudden defending both locations is very easy.
Understood.
Very easy to defend both locations once you destroy that center wall.
Moving as ordered.
One thing to keep in mind. Next, we're talking about field hospital. This is the last thing about infantry, for the most part, right? This is a nice map for mechs in general. But again, right? So, oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this iron mine. Same thing for this, right? Asymmetrical, but there's symmetry in the principle. If you control this iron mine and you're keeping it from your opponent who's out here, getting control of this cover, right? This cover, this cover. There's a lot of opportunity to prevent your opponent from having cover when they engage to fight you.
Working at full capacity.
You get that one-way cover. So if you can get there first and get control of the cover, you have the advantage.
Someone in pain?
Now there's a lot of open space on oil spill. Lots of open space. Lots of potentially weird, quirky places to put a field hospital right over here above the vulnerable oil pump. I don't know if that's a thing, right? I haven't tested any of these locations. Maybe back here, if you put a field hospital back here, you can challenge the flag, challenge this iron mine, take advantage of that one-way cover. You can do the same over here. You can build this where the pillbox is, right? On your opponent's side of the map. challenge their iron mine, have a forward base back here maybe, etc. Maybe over here, right? There's tons of open space on this map to put some sort of forward field hospital. That doesn't even necessarily need to be aggressive. Just shortens your time and gives you some more initiative. Artillery side of this map, I'm choosing Saxony to represent this because, for one, the stormtroopers have sort of the average middle of the road range, right? The volunteers have 1 more plus range than them, but I also wanted to show off the Earl. You can see this location where I parked the Earl covers this flag and a huge chunk of this space, right? Like, this is, I mean, obviously you don't want to look at this and say, oh, this is a choke point, but if your opponent's going to approach the iron side, especially the center iron, they're going to be walking right here, and then over here, and this Earl just covers all that space. If they want to get out of the Earl range, they have to walk all the way down here and then up, and of course, that's leaving their backside to your base, allowing easy attack. And you might think, well, they can just rush the Earl, walk straight up to it. Right. The reason why I want to showcase this spot is because of this building. If you want to take this flag and hold this iron mine, sort of leave this side to defense, right? You let your opponent have the center flag and you hold theirs and threaten their iron mine. This building, like all buildings, both in real life and in Iron Harvest, block line of sight. So you can't shoot this Earl from here. You can't shoot the Earl from here. You have to walk down here to get an angle, right? To get the angle on this Earl. And of course, with the Earl right there in that position, and they have to turn. They have to turn. Trying to get the arrow, right? You have to turn that way to try and look at the Earl. Again, you can set up your mechs over here or over here, and if you see it coming, you have a squad out here to spot. You just turn your mechs, and your mechs are going to be naturally lined up to shoot your opponent right in the butt. Iron Harvest likes shooting people in the butt. Here's a nice mortar position for the center flag, right? Cheaper, maybe some sort of early push to take the flag and then maybe move it up and take this oil pump. But of course, right, line of sight. Line of sight is key for artillery because they don't need it. But things that try to kill artillery typically need line of sight.
Awaiting an assignment.
So these rocks here, right? This all blocks line of sight. They have to get out here to start shooting. This wall blocks line of sight. And then you can position the mortar in a way that if they want to walk through this choke, they're going to eat a mortar shell. At least for one side, right? If you want this cover to contest your oil pump, they have to eat a mortar shell. Put a squad here to defend the mortar, squad here to defend the mortar. And you're golden. Now, of course, they could potentially rush you. Maybe bait a mortar shell out over here and then pop a squad through the building. Pop a squad through this building to try and grenade this. This has nothing to do with attacking and defending an oil spill. This is a little trick that I like to do in some games when you have opportunity to get flamethrowers.
Ditch the mortar.
Get rid of the engineers that run the mortar. Replace it with the flamers, right? Eventually the flamers fall off in value. They become a liability. They become an iron eater because they just take damage for free. Put them on your mortar. When somebody tries to rush your mortar with grenadiers, you pop off. You pop your flamers off, and now you have an anti-infantry unit standing right next to some grenadiers. You can potentially micro-dodge the grenade, cause them to eat some flames, pop back on, and you're right as rain.
Ready for anything.
You know what I mean?
Crew waiting for orders.
We can, of course, then move the mortar up once we have control. We can park it right here. Cover the oil pump a little bit. Cover out here. It ends up covering this choke entirely now. So now you can put your squads right here to defend. And if they want to approach from here, they have to eat mortar and get shot at. Of course, that leaves nothing here now.
Out with it now.
And maybe you put a squad out here or a mech. But either way, if you're defending here, mortar here, defending here, their path to flank you is now super long. It's all the way down this river and over. And you can see that you can see most of that with the flag vision.
What to do.
And of course you'll be moving in and out of these buildings and things like that. So just some nice positions here for mortars and artillery. You can get crazy with this, right? With this concept of blocking line of sight for the Earl. Oh yeah, sorry. It reflects over here as well with the Earl. You can put it behind this church if you're fighting on the other side of the map. Put the reticle right here, something like that, and it sort of achieves the same thing. If you're using a Machni, you can come from this angle that the Earl is on, walk it part way into the building. Part way into the building, you can set the Machni up inside the building, and it leaves half of the building still intact. And again, same thing, cuts off line of sight and leaves the building as like a line of sight blocker slash shield. You can be more aggressive, do the same thing, put the Earl here. Again, this little building blocks most of the line of sight. You cover the iron mine, you cover everything out here, you cover this entire, like, the second they walk out into the open, you're shelling them. And of course, then you have your mechs chilling right here, defending the angle, fighting, and you can take two things with one, pretty much. Now, there's not a whole lot to talk about as far as mechs on this map. Let's start moving the Stief where I want it to go, right? But this map, Oil Spill is a map of islands, right? It's a very open map, of course, don't get me wrong. Very, very open map. But it's actually a map of little islands. Here's a little island. This is a little island. Little island of cover. These little islands, I'm going to call big cover. This is big cover because this cover blocks line of sight. Not just the building, these trees, these rocks, even this rock right here, and this rock as well. This big cover blocks line of sight for your mechs and your enemy mechs. And thus, units like the Stiefmotor or the Zoof for Polonia and Aquavania, right? All the artillery sort of based units and things like that thrive in this sort of environment because they can dance around. They can dance around this big cover while still shooting and avoid being shot at. And of course, you can, if you have your bigger mechs and things like that, utilizing this big cover allows you to sort of shoot and maybe retreat. You can hit the retreat button, right? Big mechs right here, your mechs right here. You're losing the fight. You hit the retreat button. They're going to try and chase you down, but the second your mech gets past this cover, they lose line of sight. And then they'll lose line of sight again. And so you can sort of use this to your advantage. A unit that's about to die, you can just quickly get them behind cover. And now if they want to kill this mech that's behind cover, you have to walk all the way in and get the angle. So there's all these little islands all over this map. I don't think this is an island, right? But here's an island. Here's another island, etc. So that's important to note when it comes to the big mech fighting, right? Other than that, it's really open space. If you want to just old school, line your mechs up, they line their mechs up, and you just sort of walk into each other and you cross your fingers and see who wins. You can do that as well. But the player who takes advantage of the cover, preemptively as well, like you want to already be in position to take advantage of the cover, you're going to be flying high in the mech fights. Get this guy out of here. And now, like I said before, Oil Spill is a map of huge open space. And in fact, there's huge open space for air units. Look at the side of this map. Right, this is where ground units can go. Look at the side. Look at the side. Here's ground units. Look at this huge island of just dead space. This is space that only air units can go to. Right? Look at behind the base. Now I don't think there's going to be any sort of like gunship HQ base rush going on. But there's so much open space where only air units can go that you can definitely position your gunships in a way that ground units won't be able to touch them, because gunships have so much range. Wouldn't be able to touch them. There is some line of sight issuing for the gunship when they're in this cover. They want to naturally get closer, but I've been able to finagle it a little bit to get it shoot from further away. But for the most part, if you need to get your gunship out of dodge, you easily can by just flying them over this impassable terrain. And there's so much space for airships and for the gunship specifically that on this map, a well-placed gunship will only be able to be challenged if your opponent builds airlifts or skybikes. And neither of those are really great answers to the gunship, even though that's right, either way you think they should be, but they're not. So just tons of open space here for airships. I have the skybike out here as well. Lots of open space. Infantry can run over this right here. Can walk over this. One thing I forgot to talk about, fighting in this little chunk right here for the caches. Blow these trucks up, use the trucks as cover. That's about all I have to say. When you want to fight for the beginning oil caches, oil and iron cache that are right here. Infantry can walk all the way back to about here. I don't know if this is good or not, or if this is ideal, but if you want to like do some sort of air gunship play on this side of the map where there's tons of open space, infantry can't walk past this fence or up this cliff right here, right? It's this edge of the river and the cliff. They can't walk up here, so you can have a gunship protect this oil pump, float the gunship over here to shoot. I don't know. Maybe they have their barracks here. It's weird, but then maybe shoot their HQ, be a nuisance, etc. Maybe you want gunships and airships to defend this half of the map. You can potentially back them up here instead of retreating them. Have some engineers chilling here. Maybe, again, you have your medic, your field hospital here. Have a little forward base here where you have engineers chilling to repair air units. And infantry covering here. You can defend it with your blown up trucks and etc. So I think there's a lot of potential for airships on the edges of the map. Out in the open, some mechs might be able to run down the air units and things like that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I sort of shot myself in the foot when I did this. I knew, like, oh man, I need to do this faster than the VPs are going to count down. This is real embarrassing, but we're going to have to do this right here. But that's air units on oil spill for the most. There's tons of huge open spaces. Airlifts, a little expensive for what you achieve, a little slow for what you achieve, but again, there's so much open space on the map that there is maybe potential for carrying an airship over the edge and like dropping it in your opponent's base and trying to blow up their buildings with flamethrowers or something like that. Just so you guys know, on this side of the map, there's this bridge. Infantry can walk on this bridge. Now, there's these little carts right here, these wooden carts, that actually block the path to this bridge, but these carts can actually be blown up. You can destroy these carts. If I recall, you can destroy these carts with the airlift machine gun, so I'm assuming you can do it with the infantry as well. But the airlift machine gun can actually shoot and destroy these carts. Maybe one airlift slowly over time will ferry your infantry here. Maybe when infantry are getting phased out, you start putting them here. Stage a little, because this is my base.
Workshop here.
This is my field of vision. This is my fog of war. I can't see here. Build a little infantry army. Rush it out. Cause some mayhem. The equivalent is over here. It's over here. Now, it's not quite as good because this iron mine covers this side. This iron mine covers this side. So there's only one side that stays in perpetual fog of war on the edge. Carry it all the way around, and you can actually drop right here. Kind of a smaller space
Working at full capacity.
for this side, but you can drop infantry right here, and then you walk them out and maybe do something right. I'm not saying that's good, but maybe there's potential. Some sort of weird, whatever, airlift, sneaks, and etc.
The
engineers moving.
Moving to another
When it comes to bunkers aren't very good in this game, but there are some niche situations where they end up being good,
Always
right? Because
vigilant.
the issue for pillboxes for the bunkers is them getting flanked because they have such a limited field of range. These rocks right here block line of sight, and of course this is all impassable terrain. So this bunker right here can't be flanked. Full utilization of its field of range. Same thing can be achieved right here where the Earl is.
I will deliver death to the
Stop shooting now. Right, same thing can be achieved right here. Put a bunker right here. It covers the flag and covers the entire flank. The entire direction that it's facing, basically. I haven't really found any other like significantly good like place to put a bunker on this map, a pillbox. There might be some other maybe potentially sneaky places to do it. Like maybe right here you can put one down in the early stages of the game when those walls are still alive, when these buildings are still alive, of course. And the mechs start walking out, the pillbox loses its value, but of course you don't build the pillbox to fight mechs, you build it to stop getting back capped, right? You don't have to worry, but you set it and forget it. That's about it for pillboxes. Here's the last bit, mines. Now mines are hard to use.
We are here to
Mines that aren't used are expensive. But this is one of the best places I think in the entire game to put a landmine. The entire game, right? So even though it's a nice big open map, we got the islands of big cover, right? Remember, big cover, I said it first, one-way cover, that's my thing, I coined it. Even though there's these lots of islands, lots of open space, everything sort of comes down to little choke points eventually, right? Here's a choke point. These buildings are actually little choke points, little pathways. If you have mechs over here, and you are getting attacked over here, and you want to like, oh, get my mechs over there, your mechs are going to naturally pathfind through this, through this, through this, through this center part of the map. These three locations are going to be the key highways that your mechs are going to be walking through the map from left to right. Let me back these up.
Always ready, right away.
And ideally, you want your opponent to not know that landmines are there, because the second the landmine is there, they just walk around it, right? Unless you put the landmine in some like really like annoying place where like eventually they will have to walk into it. They'll be able to walk into it on their own terms, and they'll minimize the damage, and it'll you won't get your value.
We are here to serve.
You just won't get your value.
Taking a protected
Notice the
point.
fog of war right here in the center, right? We have our oil pump. This oil pump. This iron mine captured. And we sort of create this like this very clear-cut vision of where the fog of war in the center of the map lies. Up to this building. Up to this building. This circle, right? Up to these tree line, basically. Up to this tree line. Up to these two big, right? Like, here is the fog of war that your opponent would be seeing if my opponent controlled his oil pump still. It's right here. It's right there.
We are always
the same as for us. It's the same for us, right? This choke point is about the edge of our fog of war.
Standing by for orders. Traveling that way.
So what happens then? Now you can't really get to this choke point, right? But there's just choke point right here, and this choke point right here that are both right next to each other. This and this, right here.
Engineers
We
ready
can
for
cover
work.
both of these tight. Like 2 mechs can barely fit through this at the same time. 2 mechs can barely, maybe 3 mechs can barely fit through this right here. But these are choke points that mechs have to squeeze through. Here is our range for our landmine, right? So if you look right here, you see the edge of our landmine right here? It doesn't need to be right on the edge, right? A mech is big. A mech is big. We can put the landmine out here, and the landmine will still hit that mech because the mech...
Saxonian soldiers are born to excel.
That's great. They're born to excel. Okay. Right, we can put the landmine out here and still hit a mech that's skirting the edge of this big cover. We can even probably move it right here. Right here. And now notice this right here. This is the edge of the big cover.
The Kaiser's finest.
Look how much of this space that we guard with this single landmine. A big mech could not walk through either of these choke points without triggering
A nasty surprise for the enemy.
this nasty surprise. Right? Because a mech that's trying to skirt around the edge, right here,
Engineers ready for work.
I have to destroy it. You can't see that. Once you build the mine, you can't see its range anymore. It's very annoying. Right? A big mech could not skirt through that little space right there by the cover. Couldn't, right? So, I think this is a great place to put a, like, 3 landmines or something. Your opponent's got an annoying Zoof that's coming out. Like, you know the Zoof, your opponent's Zoof, it's on its way. And, you know, the Zoof is always moving, right? A Zoof that's not moving is a dead Zoof. And these, so guaranteed your Zoof is gonna, if you're creating pressure on both sides of the map and causing the Zoof to walk back and forth, it's eventually gonna walk through here. 3 landmines, bam. Got it. Bingo, bango. That was a very unenthusiastic bam. But I think right here is a beautiful place for landmines because it blocks this cover, or this choke point and this choke point, which I think ends up being a key
Saxonian
path.
soldiers are born to excel.
Yes, you said it many times. We appreciate that. They're trained to say that, let me tell you. Because these buildings are key pathways for your mechs to walk left to right on the map. So you just build a couple of landmines right here.
This is sure to ruin their plans.
And you choke out their mechs and ruin their plans. The equivalent can be done right here. Again, here's the big cover. Here's the big cover. Little choke point. Landmine, like right about here. Even out here, maybe. Landmine right there. We'll cover both that and this.
The Kaiser's finest.
Could be very annoying to deal with. That's all I got. Man, I've talked a lot. I tried to fit all this as fast as I possibly could. So hopefully the video is not too long. It's 32 minutes long. Enjoy watching this. If you're still watching this video and you're here, thank you. What the heck? Go look at a bird or something. But thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to be doing one of these videos for each of the maps, going through infantry, artillery, mechs, air units, bunkers, and mines. So more to come. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the future.